So it's my pleasure to introduce my dear friend John Wilson. I met him back in the early 80s, as I've met so many people in this center. And we were both a little bit younger back then. Since that time, we've just become the best of friends after all these years. I think we all love John because he's just such a straight-hearted, open-hearted, loving guy. I don't know anybody that has more of a heart of gold than this guy right over here, John Wilson. John's an individual who's very close to the earth. He spent much of his adult life growing organic produce out in the Pungu area. And more importantly than that, he's taught thousands and thousands of people, especially young people, how to adopt organic farming techniques and grow organic produce themselves. John is also a master builder, a very talented contractor. Back in 1992, when we renovated this building, John volunteered much of his services to be in charge of that. We have a little plaque above the door back there dedicated to John. I think it says Master Builder for the Lord. And because John was in charge of this renovation here, which was a big deal back then. And so without further ado, let's welcome John Wilson.
I know it's backwards. It's kind of who I am, how I operate. And I'm not going to say anything about myself because I'm going to let you believe everything Bruce said. How great. Gosh, everything that has already happened here is like my talk's already been given. I'm telling you. It's like the songs are all perfectly going. I didn't coordinate it either. And some of what has been said by others, some of the prayers, it's all part of the same story. And I always feel a little funny talking here because this, of course, here is a group of people who have heard it all. You know, what else can I say? So I'm going to try to make it a little whimsical, but also, I'm starting a new phase of life too. So this is my formula for myself. So anyway, I found this. There's a magazine you may not have heard of called the New Earth Gazette. Saw Help Wanted ad in it. So there you go. Those of you who can't read it, from over there, it says the New Earth Gazette. Of course, I made that up. Right? Looking for a few good people for anonymous positions wherever you are. Light workers. Okay, so now I'm going to go through these items that are on here. I don't know if they can both fit in here or not. Here's the qualifications for the job, and they can all be learned on the job. And I had to narrow that down. There's so many cool things that I could have put on there, but we just heard it. I don't remember who it was or who said it, but love people as they are. Okay, well, all right. So we'll start with the hardest. We'll start with the challenge. Love people as they are. Ooh, how many people know how to do that? Fully and completely. Ooh. He does. George does. George, here you go. Here's the talk. You take over. Now, it doesn't mean be a doormat. It doesn't mean accepting abusive behavior. So, we've got to get that out of the way first. You've got to know your limits and boundaries. Now, just so you know, because I do a lot of farming talks too, I've learned that everything is interconnected. So, loving people as they are is connected with discernment. And everything keeps bouncing back and forth. You do a little bit of one and it helps a little bit of the other one. And then you learn a little more about that one. And that's true with farming. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and draw that on there. Loving people as they are is connected to using your discernment. So you're not a doormat, you know. You do have to know your limits and boundaries. It can mean, and I think this is important now, that because there's a lot of energy around, politics and religion and all these things you don't talk about when you're with your family, right? But we're all human. So we're all, we all need to help each other and listen to each other. So actively listening to a person's story, allowing them to be heard. I have found that when I have difficulty with somebody, if I stop and focus and ask them about themselves in some way, and I hear their story and I don't do any judging, I just hear, there's always a layer.
There you go.
Oh, thank you.
Right there. It's on the page.
All right, good deal. A story underneath the stuff on the surface always comes forth, always comes out. And then you just have appreciation for that person. And I think that's important today. And another thing, I'm going to have a quote by Rudolf Steiner. Anybody know who Rudolf Steiner is? He's hard to read, isn't he? He's hard to read. But I've gotten through some of it into some really good stuff. And in 20, he talked about this, how one of the things we need to do today is really listen to other people and really get to that lower level where we're more the same. So anyway, I have found that my attitude towards people changes whenever I do that. And I have another little layer of connection and appreciation and love for them. So I wrote here, walk through life with an open heart. Well, we just heard all about that in that song. Okay, seek inspiration. I think this is really important. Seek inspiration. What does it mean? Well, you come to this church. I mean, we have to keep ourselves built up. Ooh, the Holy Spirit just came in. Welcome, friend. The door just blew open. That's a good, huh? Yes, and it was gentle. It didn't slam. Thank you. Now, I know I've said this before in here too, but to me this is likely. Keep the oil in your lamp. That's a biblical quote. Keep oil in your lamp for the dark night. So, do you know what inspires you? Do you know what helps you keep hopeful? If you do, go to it. Seek it. Trouble yourself a little bit. Go out to the thing that's happening here on some night, or whatever it is. Some of the classes. Trouble yourself to stay there. Go to study your dreams. Involved in this can sometimes be a little self-discipline. Sometimes we have to push ourselves a little bit. Now, not the dour, serious kind of discipline, okay? The happy kind, like, okay, get up early, pray, meditate, reread your favorite spiritual book. Sleep in sometimes, too. That's important. Because then what do you get? You get what Kathleen and I call the bonus dream. And then write it down. Sometimes they're the best ones. I'm just going to sleep in today, and then come up with some interesting activity. I don't know if I'm saying this exactly right, but again, in the Steiner book I'm reading, he talks about the quote in the Bible, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Well, he says, he translates that as, go ahead, be a beggar to God. Go ahead, beg, just seek. And that's all over the Bible, seek. I mean, I like that song we sing in here sometimes. Seek and ye shall find, knock and the door shall be open. Ask and it shall be given, and the love comes a-trickling down. I mean, that's everywhere we read this stuff. It's always the same. They're waiting. The angels are waiting for us. The Holy Spirit's waiting for us. To just ask. We have to ask. It's apparently, They say, some of the spiritual teachers say, they sometimes have to wait to be asked to teach also someone. But I also think of it as a relaxing into awareness. Begging can seem a little tense, but it's also relaxing. And again, these are all things, you don't have to know these things. It's on-the-job training. So if you just start, it starts to unfold and comes together. Create resilience in your personal system. So, as I said, I'm an organic farmer, and I learned this concept from another farmer. His name is Joel Salatin. He says, become a forgiveness farmer. And so I immediately loved the term a forgiveness farmer, because I had a couple of really big experiences in my life of learning how to forgive when I really didn't want to, and I was resisting. So I finally prayed, okay, teach me how to be willing to be forgiving. We'll start there. So forgiveness farming. But with farming, what it means is, if you have a resilient system and a forgiveness farm, one part may fail this season, but 5 other parts will succeed. And you can recover more easily from setbacks on the farm and in your life. Now on the farm, that means, I like to talk when I do the farm talks about the invisibles, the soil microbes. Well, I don't know, I know I've said this in here before, but maybe some of you haven't heard it. So, the most important life form on the planet is the bacteria and fungus for our life. Without it, everything would die. We're now studying the biome of the body, right? How many people, you take a probiotic. If you have to take an antibiotic for something, they urge you to take a probiotic. Eat yogurt. It's the invisibles. And also, in the invisibles on the farm are the buffer zones. You don't know what's going on there. I planted a 30-foot buffer zone on either side of my farm with trees and shrubs all native to Virginia. There's all kinds of stuff going on in there, bugs and animals, and things come out of there that help me, and I don't even know what they all are. Beneficial habitat is part of what that is, and also biodiversity. Don't stay in a little pocket in a little hole somewhere. Biodiversity. So I think you all can understand how what that all means to the spiritual life when you think about it. I mean, for me it means every prayer, every meditation, every prayer is a little microbe that I'm setting loose in the invisible area. Every meditation is like a little beneficial insect. And it's eating the pests when you're not even looking. So your little pest thoughts and stuff, if you keep praying and meditating, one day you just maybe you don't even notice. All of a sudden it's kind of gone. And I call the buffer zone your history of sharing love and your friend circle and all the ways that you seek inspiration. Again, everything comes together. Seeking inspiration, it helps create a resilience. And everything, it just all keeps, see, this one's connected to this one, and then this one's connected to this one, and pretty soon they'll all be wigglies all over this. But now here's another one that I didn't think about a lot previously in my life, but I'm thinking about it more because of reading this Rudolf Steiner book. Thought and will. Thinking. Well, we've heard mind is the builder, right? So I'm taking that a little more seriously now. Think things through. Make a plan for your body, for your mind, and your spirit. At the end of the day, review the day. Think about it. When were you upset? Let your mind be active in this too. And then use your will to create a new plan for yourself. Small, big, medium size, biggie size, whatever. Biggie size it. I say go big. Make a new plan, but sometimes it requires thinking it through. And I used to be more of the almost all inspirational side of it. Like always, now that one was always easy for me. Seek inspiration. I've always liked to read books and meditate and be with people. But this thinking part, I mean, of course we all think, but more consciously. And it also means deciding, thinking and then making a plan to become more. We have 5 senses, right? Well, there are other senses for discerning in the spiritual worlds. And it's like a fish when it lives in a cave in the water somewhere, its eyes, it slowly goes blind. So light creates our eyes. Sound creates our ears. Our senses are created in this dimension. And in the same way, when you're practicing, and that's what they call it, prayer, practicing prayer, meditation, etc., and dream work, all of that. And I always mention this when I come in here because I do think it's helpful sometimes. Sometimes we have to go to a therapist and just talk about something, or a group, something, some kind of group. And some people still think there's shame in that, but go talk it through. That's part of the thinking part. And here's where the title, did the title make it in the program? Clear the Cup. Clear the Cup. That's what I wanted to title this. Clear the Cup. So first I'm going to read this thing. This got me thinking. All this happened within like 24 hours too. I found this. This is formerly Cat Stevens, who now calls himself Yusuf. What's his last name? Muhammad. Yusuf Muhammad. But this is in the beginning of his newest album. A spiritual master received a learned man who came to gain deeper insight into the mysteries of life. The master prepared tea. While serving the tea, he began to explain. But the learned man, a professor, kept on interrupting with his own opinions. So the master poured the visitor's cup full and then kept pouring. The learned man watched the overflow until he could no longer take it. It's over full. No more will go in. Like this cup, the master said, you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you anything unless you first empty your cup? Okay, I really love this bowl up here. There's another part of the talk I'll share later, but called the bowl of light. But okay, and at the same time, we both read this book. Kathleen reads a lot of books, youth and young adult books, and so that's my level of reading. But she's a youth librarian, so she feeds me all these books. And we found this passage in this book.
Within the same day.
Within 24 hours, this popped
This
up.
is A Most Magical Girl by Karen Foxley, and I will tell you, it is about a girl who contains magic within her, and she only needs a few teachers along the way.
Use the mic, Kathleen.
Pardon me? Oh, the microphone. Yes. A Most Magical Girl by Karen Foxley, who's from Australia. She's visiting with her aunties, who are trying to help her know about her magic. To give you the map, there must be room inside you, she said. She pointed to Annabelle's head. That doesn't make sense. For you to read the map, there must be room inside you, said Miss Henrietta. Anyone can read a map, thought Annabelle. She was quite good at it. She wished Miss Henrietta wouldn't point at her. It was rude. For you to understand the map, there must be room inside you. Fiddlesticks, thought Annabelle. There is no room inside you, said Henrietta. Listen to you. You cannot control your thoughts. You are loud and careless. How will you hear the world, the real world, when all you hear are your own buzzing thoughts? Annabelle wondered if she should get her own morning tea. Miss Henrietta sighed, exasperated. First, imagine your mind is a teacup. I beg your pardon, Miss Henrietta, said Annabelle. Impudent child. To empty one's thoughts, to quiet them, one must quickly and carefully imagine the cup of one's mind. What kind of cup do you have? Annabelle stared at Miss Henrietta. It was a trick question. She knew it. No matter what she said, it would be wrong. Miss Henrietta waited. If your mind were a cup, her great-aunt said slowly, each word like a stamp of a foot, what kind of cup would it be? Well, said Annabelle, It would be a little fancy. It would be a bone china teacup, white, painted all over with yellow roses and trimmed in gold. Good, said Miss Henrietta. Now that you see your cup, can you see what is inside it? What are your thoughts? Do not shout them, I beg of you. Just look in your cup and quietly list them.
I love that. There's a lot of great youth books, by the way, out there. I've stopped trying to read the adult books. They're all full of fast-paced violence and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, now I consider this something available to us in a moment of need. We love the Seven Terrace meditation, but sometimes we're in the middle of something, in the middle of a meeting or whatever. So I'm going to ask you to practice this just for a second. This is like the quick version of all the other meditation techniques you've done. Just close your eyes for a second. See your own cup, the cup of your mind. Just see it. And then, as Miss Henrietta said, quickly and quietly see what's in the cup. We're going to do 3 thoughts or 3 pieces. See what is the first thought that comes in your mind right now. Okay, now what is the next thought under that? And now, what is the next thought under that? Now imagine you've cleared your cup and you are ready to receive in that moment what is right for you right then. That's clearing the cup. And sometimes it takes a while for some of us. So, all right, moving on. Back to the part about the senses. You are developing and growing what Steiner called sense organs all the while for the spiritual worlds. There's another whole layer of sensing organs that can be developed so that you can discern and do this exercise really quick with those other spiritual sense organs. And this also goes back to, using your thought and your will. Again, everything is connected. You got to make a decision to do this clear the cup thing with your mind. Decide it. Now, the next one, learn discernment. To me, that's always been a challenging one. I would say even pray for discernment. When you go back to being a beggar for God, pray for discernment for yourself. And it's, again, what we've already heard several times in different ways. It's not judging, right or wrong. It means discerning, is this for me now or is this not for me now? Today I will accept this strange and interesting offer or invitation, or today I will stay home and read this new book which fell off the shelf when I was walking by. And of course this is also activating your intuition, one of your higher sense organs. And also knowing. Always remember this. There's no path that can be taken that is wrong, really. Every path leads to growth. For as it also says in the Bible, all things work for good for those who love the Lord. So as long as you're trying to employ some of these things and you're thinking through, well, so you made a choice today that ended a little chaotically. You learned something. So all choices are right in that sense. 6, catharsis. Clear the cup. Learn how to be an empty vessel. Sometimes, and I don't mean catharsis in the big, it can be any version of catharsis, of course, but sometimes it takes a little effort to move some of those thoughts or those stones out. I read the Buddhist teaching story Here's another favorite little story of mine, and I'm rereading this book called The Bowl of Light by Hank Wesselman. And he had a Hawaiian teacher whose name was Hale Makua, a spiritual Huna teacher. And he told Hank, he said, okay, we're all born with a bowl of light. A nice, big, beautiful bowl, just like this one. Everybody see this bowl? Isn't that beautiful? It was here for me. Thank you, whoever put it there, for this talk.
Dax made it.
Who?
Dax made it.
Oh, Dax.
You didn't? No. Oh.
Well, it's beautiful.
Somebody made it.
Somebody made it, and that person has a name. So we thank that person. But anyway, in this teaching, Hale Makua says to him, we are all born pure and innocent with a bowl full of light. And, well, sometimes it takes a little effort, a little catharsis to clear the stones or the thoughts. Other times, according to Hale Makua, as you go through life and you develop stones in your bowl sometimes, and then you're like, there's not as much light. Hank says, well, what do you do then? And Hale Makua, laughing, says, you dump the stones out and start over. And I just love that. So sometimes it's that easy. Sometimes it might be a little work, like going through those thoughts, but and I like the part that I don't know if it was in the book or that part that she read, but for her, clearing the cup was also, she was going to receive a map she needed to go on a journey. And isn't that it too? We're clearing the cup to get a map, whether it's for the next hour or for the next month or for the next 20 years. So that's catharsis. I really like that book, by the way, Bowl of Light. And it's Hank Wesselman, if anybody wants to look it up. And also, if you can do it, plow through a little bit of Steiner. I don't know why it's so difficult to read, but I passed through some part of it and it got really good. Okay, now here's another one, the last one. Have the big faith. Develop it. Learn how to put that oil in your lamp. And it happens, how do you get the big faith? By doing all these things, one at one. Like I said, this one affects this one, and then that affects that one. And then pretty soon you have enough experiences, and that faith is just in there, and you didn't even realize it. It's, like there is no death. After you have some experiences with people who have passed on, there's no death. That's why one of the beauties of the near-death experience, people coming here and speaking, that's really great stuff. That's the biggest one. Because what are you afraid of? Death, speaking in public. I've gotten over some of that now. I guess you can tell. But boy, the first time I spoke in here, I was holding my paper and I was like, even this place here, it was scaring me. But have the big faith and go past your boundaries. Like I said, trouble yourself a little. Everything interconnects, just like on the farm. We know that there's no death. We know that there is a series of new beginnings, bowls filled with light and then filled with stones. Empty the stones, fill it with light again. Lessons learned, love growing in us all the while. That builds that faith. And if you're not feeling that love, well, empty the cup and ask. Be that beggar. For God's sake, I need to feel some love. And when you're doing the empty the cup, don't judge. Don't judge. Again, always remember that. Don't judge yourself, your thoughts. Notice. Just notice. Oh, I'm thinking that. Okay. So, I'm going to end with two quotes. I love quotes. There's already been two. There's two more. So, this wasn't in the book I'm reading. It was passed around by somebody, a friend of mine, recently, but it was a Steiner quote. So it was always also interesting to me while I'm reading this book and I'm planning a talk. This quote comes on the internet. Again, Rudolf Steiner. It is part of what we must learn in this age. And he wrote this, by the way, in like 1920 or something. So right after World War I, right before, or it might have been 1930, before World War II. It is part of what we must learn in this age, namely, to live out of pure trust, without any security in existence. Trust in the ever-present help of the spiritual world. Truly, nothing else will do. If our courage is not to fail us, and let us seek the awakening from within ourselves, every morning and every evening. That's Rudolf Steiner. Now, at the end, I'm going to read this quote, and I want you all to listen to this one as if Jesus is really talking to you right now, right at this precise moment. It's one of my favorite quotes. Do not let your heart be troubled. Believe in God and believe in me. In my house, in my Father's house, are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again to receive you unto myself, that where I am, you may be also. And where I go, you know, and you know the way. And I take that in two ways. I take that literally, I do. But I also take it in consciousness. Because he said, how many ways did he say it? You can do what I do and greater things. But do not let your heart be troubled. That's the message today. Thank you.